In 2004, Kawasaki brought out the Z750, and do you know what, back then it almost seemed too good to be true. Here was a proper budget, naked sports bike you could ride around like a hooligan on, and also it gave you that extra bragging rights over your mates on their standard 600cc bikes. Thing is, over the next 11 years, Kawasaki didn't exactly take the bike on that much, and I think the death knell kind of sounded for it back in 2011 when they brought out the tricked out R version. I spent quite a lot of time on that bike, and while it was very, very capable, it just left me feeling a bit meh. It was kind of boring and didn't have really any soul or passion to it, especially compared to the class-leading awesomeness of the Triumph Street Triple R. What was I going to say? What it's going to be? So, Kawasaki needed to do something drastic, and my goodness they have. And they've brought in the brand new Z800. Now, the new bike is so different to the old Z750R, it's unreal. When I first found out that my first bike of the kind of riding summer was going to be a Z800, I was like, oh great, that will be, well, I suppose it'll be a nice easy way to get back into it after the hammer. But you know what? It has been unreal. It has surpassed every expectation I could have of the bike. So how did Quacker do it? So did they make it lighter? Well, actually no, it's 5 kilograms heavier than the old Z750R, and it weighs in at 229 kilograms wet, which is a very heavy bike. But the unbelievable thing is when you're riding it, I mean, apart from at very, very low speeds, you really don't notice it. It's not quite as light and flickable as the Street Triple R, which I think is probably the best handling bike on the road, but it's really not that far off it. And all that added extra weight actually makes the bike incredibly stable. Honestly, I can't tell you how much fun I've had taking these things around corners. I have not been able to get off the bike. I think that's the thing that shocked me the most. It's just the balance of the bike. There's no trick or fancy suspension on there. Yeah, you've got KYB forks and the rear shock and a slight amount of adjustment, but they're not fully adjustable and you don't need it. The factory have just got the chassis on this bike set up so perfectly for a rider like me. Obviously, the biggest change is the engine. They've increased capacity up to 806cc and they've given it an extra 6 brake horsepower. Now, that may not sound a huge amount, 111 brake horsepower on a 229 kilo bike, but it's the way in which this new engine delivers the power. It gives you so much pulling power coming out the corners, even really low down in the gears. You can see how they want you to ride this bike, and the clue should also be in the fact that it redlines at 10,500 RPM. This is one torquey beast. Stopping really isn't an issue for this rather lardy beast either, thanks to Nissan uprated brakes, but my slight gripe is the fact that they have brought out an ABS version for an extra £500 in Japan, and it's probably not going to see the light of day over here. I mean, realistically, apart from the fact that it feels a bit bigger, the only other bike on the road, as I've already mentioned, that it handles like is the Street Triple R from Triumph, which is the class-leading bike, and obviously is the reason why Kawasaki have made the Z800. Looks-wise, she definitely looks like a meaner beast. She's got a new headlight and a new nose fairing, and they just give it a slightly more aggressive angle. Plus, there's loads of new parts on the bike, from tank to belly pan, but it's the little things that I really like on this. I love the new clocks. The way the rev counter kind of surges up like a volume on a graphic equalizer is incredible. Plus, little touches. The under-seat lights, for instance, spell out 2 Zs, and if you actually look at the seat really closely, the patterning detail on it is all little tiny Zs. Quite nice, and obviously a little bit of an homage to the marque itself, celebrating 40 years. I think it's a balance it strikes between being smooth and being downright irresponsible. I think the biggest compliment I can give this bike is that I've not been able to stop riding it, even though I've had a Ducati Hyper Motard sitting next to it in the garage. Genuinely, out of the two, I'll take the Z800 every day. Now, another thing is I'm 6'3" and quite a big guy, and normally get cramped on naked super sport or 600 middleweight machines, and you know what? Hasn't happened once on this, and I've been out on it for hours and hours at an end. And the great thing about its riding position, the handlebars, the ergonomic design of the bike, is it literally means that you don't have to get off it and spend more time having fun. So how about the cost? Well, it's $7,499. That makes it quite a bit less than the FZ8 from Yamaha, about on a par with the Suzuki GSR 750, which is his far superior bike. But it's considerably more than the standard Street Triple, but £200 less than the Street Triple R. So that brings me to the big question. Would I buy it over Triumph's new Street Triple R? Now that's a tricky one, okay? The Z800 is 40 kilograms more, and that seems like a bit of a heifer compared to the Street Triple, and I only spent a couple of days riding that out on its launch. So I'm going to reserve complete judgment. At the moment, I'm kind of leaning towards the Triumph, until I get it in a few weeks' time, and I'll be able to do a much more in-depth comparison. But the great thing is with the Z800, honestly, it surpasses all of its Japanese rivals quite easily, and it's been one of the biggest surprises I've ridden in ages.